The ruby slippers from The Wizard of Oz are some of the most iconic objects in Hollywood history. And in the summer of 2005, a pair was stolen from the Judy Garland Museum in the small town of Grand Rapids, Minnesota.
All she said was, "They're gone. They're gone."
Welcome to No Place Like Home, a documentary podcast series that investigates the mysterious heist of the ruby slippers. Please listen and follow No Place Like Home, a presentation of C13 Originals, a Cadence 13 studio, available now on Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts.
For the ones finding new ways to ensure the job always gets done. For the ones wearing many hats. For the ones who are hands-on, even from far away. And the ones keeping business moving forward. We are Grainger, offering supplies and solutions for every industry, with 24/7 support and experienced staff at over 250 local branches. Call, clickgrainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Let's welcome aboard right now. Chris Rose is going to join us. NFL Network BattleBots, host of the Chris Rose Rotation podcast on John Boy Media. It's All-Star Tuesday. Chris is with us. Hey, Chris, Mark Malusis, Maggie Gray, thanks for hopping on again.
Absolutely, gang. I appreciate it. Yeah, interesting discussion you're having because that's kind of what we try to do on the Rose Rotation. For people who haven't heard it before, it's a half dozen active Major League players that are my rotating co-hosts, including Trevor May of the New York Mets, Glass now down there in Tampa, Stephen Brault of the Pirates, Archie Bradley of the Phillies, Miguel Rojas of the Marlins, Lucas Giolito of the White Sox. And so, you know, this gives you an opportunity to hopefully see them and our guests away from the field because we're not talking about 3-2 sliders. Like,
yes. Right.
Really, at the end of the day, like, who cares? It's okay. It was one of 162. I do want to know who you are a little bit.
Yeah, and Chris, I mean, baseball needs more of that. You know what, kind of showing the personalities. It's the driving force. Maggie and I were talking about earlier in the show. It's kind of the driving force, the popularity of the NBA. It's not just the games on the court. It's the personalities off of it. You know, baseball, they want to continue to kind of grow this sport. I know they're making a ton of money, Chris, but if they want this sport to get back to where it was here in America, that's got to kind of be the driving force is learning more about these guys and those guys being willing to give in a little bit as well.
I think the guys are willing to give in. I think the message you're getting is that they're not willing to give in. I mean, just because Mike Trout doesn't like doing it doesn't mean players don't like doing it.
Gotcha.
Mike Trout is a great guy, but then you hear the other side of the argument. Well, I don't really care about that guy. So why should I, You can't have it both ways. I mean, Brett Phillips of the Tampa Bay Rays is an amazing personality. People got to know him a little bit because of what he did with the heroics in Game 4 and the airplane flying and then finding out he loves baseball. But he's so much fun away from the field. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
But you can't say, well, okay, so he plays for the Rays. I don't care about him. If you want to know more about him, then learn more about him. It can't be incumbent on just the three best players in the league or something like that. I mean, Tatis, I think, is probably an exception. He is a superstar that loves to put it out there, exactly who he is, right? So, if more superstars did that, yes, it would be greater. But it's also us on fans to maybe open our ears and eyes to the average player that might be super interesting as well.
Right. And also in the media, too. We hold a lot of the keys there in terms of narratives and storylines and what we amplify and what we don't. And so that falls on us also and people who love the game. Chris, because you talk to so many players, and Chris Rose is our guest, is a good friend of the show, what do you think the response is going to be now that Manfred just said today, no more 7-inning doubleheaders after this year, most likely, and no more runners starting in second base and extra innings after this year, most likely?
Well, yeah, I'll be talking to him. I think the 7 innings doubleheader, obviously that was done because of a health and safety issue. Obviously last year they had to protect the players.
Right.
And I think they have to protect the players this year going forward. People are like, well, why are we playing 7-inning doubleheaders? Why don't we go back to 9? Have you seen the number of injuries we've had, not only in baseball, but across all sports? Yep. I mean, how many superstars were out of the NBA playoffs because their bodies were kind of screwed with because of the pandemic, right? We've seen countless articles with that. And so there were adjustments that had to be made. And I'm going to go on record. I love the extra inning runner. I do. To me, it's like an anti-bet in poker.
Yeah.
I think it forces the action.
Yeah.
I think that when that's where strategy really takes over. Like, if you're the road team, do you really, I mean, you need to get that run home because then it's basically a layup for the home team if you don't. So I think I like it. I would like to see them give them the 10th inning as a normal, nobody starts at second. But if we get to the 11th inning, I'm good with it.
Compromise.
Let's try it out.
Yeah.
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 Honestly, the 7-inning doubleheaders didn't bother me, but I know that it bothered a lot of fans. And I applauded Manfred because he rarely gets applause. But I will give him the credit that I think he listened to a lot of fans who felt like they were getting, kind of gypped out of 4 innings if you're going to sit there all day and watch a doubleheader, or 2 if you're just going to a split, and wanted the full thing. And so I applaud him for that. I liked it because I felt like it upped the urgency on everything.
Totally. Absolutely. Maggie, I liked it too. I'll be honest with you, because when you're in the 4th or 5th inning, all of a sudden it gets late.
Yep.
Now you're like in the 7th inning. So I didn't mind it either. And for people who are like, well, why are we changing the game?
Right.
Well, you always change things.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't change things, you don't make progress in life. Like, hey, it's okay to be adaptable and to change stuff. So you got to pick and choose what you change. But Maggie, I didn't mind it either, to be honest with you.
Chris, do you trust Manfred kind of as commissioner, his leadership, taking this sport where it needs to go?
Really? You're coming at me strong.
Chris, do you ever want to work again?
No. Chris.
I am working. Hey, I'm working, and talk about a good soft landing with John Boy.
No,
it's
you're
like
working
the
hard.
most
You're working
fun
hard.
ever.
But you know the deal, Chris. I mean, you know the criticisms. He's, and I've heard from people that have worked around him that don't speak glowingly of Rob Manfred, right? The leader.
Right.
And you look at what he's done here as commissioner, and the lack of leadership that he's in a number of different instances here. If you're a baseball fan, can you really trust that Manfred's going to be the guy to lead this? I know he works for the owners, but lead this league as commissioner?
Well, let's be honest. Most leaders of a sports industry are not liked by fans, right?
That's why
So
they
the
all get
question
booed
is-
at the draft.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think Roger Goodell has done an amazing job embracing that over the last few years.
Right.
Like he gets it.
Well,
you
David
don't have
Stern
to like the
got it.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. You have to embrace it. Like, get it that, oh my God, the fans don't like. Of course, they don't like you, right? Because at the end of the day, you are an arm and an extension of ownership. Even though you're supposed to be the person who protects the integrity of the game, you're still working for 30 owners. I mean, that's exactly who hired you and who continues to give you contracts. I will be curious to see this offseason. I think I'm going to reserve judgment until I see this offseason.
Gotcha.
And I only say that because, is he really willing to do what's best for the game? And what I mean by that is look owners in the face and say, hey, guys, I understand I'm here to protect
Can't
your
afford a
investment.
work stoppage.
I am. But, man, if we don't have spring training going on time, we're in serious jeopardy. We're in serious, serious jeopardy. And so I've talked to a number of players who say, brace yourself for a work stoppage. And then I've talked to some who are like, I don't think we're going to have it. We're not going to have it. And these are guys that are privy to, meetings and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, listen, you got a little taste when they were going back and forth during the pandemic, but that was under much more dire circumstances, of course. Chris Rose is our guest. Just a couple more minutes with you, Chris, and thank you. You calling it now, or are the Yankees making the postseason?
So I don't think they have enough to catch either the Red Sox or Rays in that division, okay? I think there's still too many question marks with the Yanks, unless they start winning games 10-8, which I suppose they could with that lineup, but
they just haven't.
Every time they just haven't, right? So the question is, are they better than the Rays or the A's? Because if I were a Yankee fan, I'm not worried
Chris,
about.
they're not making the playoffs. I mean, the pause is here.
It's like Garrett Cole being asked about Spider Tag.
Well, hey, no. But I'm just trying to think out loud here.
No, I got you, Chris.
Better,
I got you. It's just bust your chops.
They're better than the Indians.
Yeah.
They're better than the Blue Jays, I believe, unless the Blue Jays. I don't know if the Blue Jays are going to make a move or not. So are they better than the Oakland A's? That's where I'm going. Are they better than the Oakland A's?
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, probably no.
Wow. See, I think gosh, this is a good one, isn't it? I think they're better than the Oakland A's, and I would love to see a Rays, Yankees, winner take all, move on to play either the White Sox, Astros, or Red Sox. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, I think Tampa would like to see that as well. Chris, want to ask you about Ohtani tonight. And we've heard like comparisons to Babe Ruth. I mean, what we're witnessing here, and there's a lot of great players and a lot of young stars in Major League Baseball, but just the very fact of you have a guy leading off for the American League, at 30-plus home runs in the first half. He's the starter tonight for the American League as well. What Ohtani, exactly his impact here and what he has meant this year for baseball?
Everything. If you think we talk about, we meaning the whatever media, social media, old school media, whatever, if you think we talk about him too much, it's still not enough. Because I've tried to figure out what the comparison is in, say, football. Is it the guy who leads the NFL in touchdown passes also leading the league in sacks? Like, what is it? What could possibly be close to it? There's nothing. And the other thing I say is, what would your team have to give up right now to get Shohei Ohtani in a trade? Because you're getting a guy you can plug in a two-hole and lead the league in homers and get a top-of-the-rotation type starter. Like, you would be happy with either of those guys at the trade deadline, right? Mm-hmm. Now you're getting a 2-for-1. So how much would you have to give up to get Shohei Ohtani? It's probably more than virtually anybody in this sport.
Chris, I wonder for how long, though. Like last night, because, obviously he's had injury issues in the past, but not even that. Just last night, he was exhausted in that home run derby. And I was like, man, this guy is really, burning the candle at both ends is like an understatement. And he's being asked to be, basically, this is his event out in Colorado. He's the star. And even though Pete Alonso won the home run derby last night, Ohtani's the attraction. And, I just wonder about, the mental and physical toll that all this is taking on him.
Yep, it's a great question because we heard earlier this past week, guy doesn't take batting practice, right? Mm-hmm. So he took the most grueling batting practice you can have. So I think that I wouldn't look too much at last night just because of that.
Right.
But it's the number one question. I don't understand how he DHs 5 days a week and pitches. It boggles my mind. Really, it does. And I've asked guys on the Rose rotation, like Stephen Brault of the Pirates was a really, really good two-way player in college. He was an outfielder that hit 400 one year, and he was a pitcher. And I said, could you have been Shohei Ohtani if they had allowed you to be? And he's like, no. He's like, no, I'm the biggest Ohtani fan. Said I just couldn't do it. Now, Alex Verdugo of the Red Sox, who was the best two-way player coming out of high school his year in the draft, told us that he wants to pitch at the major league level and not in mop-up duty. He said, I'm going to start training to be a pitcher at some point, out of the bullpen or something like that. But are we going to see another guy who is a starter every 6 or 7 days and then DHs 5 days a week? I just don't see it.
Did he run that by Chaim Bloom?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think Alex just kind of goes in his own universe. That's what kind of makes him fun.
Chris, last one is we know you're a Cleveland fan, you're an Indian fan, right? When you look at Lindor's struggles this year, first half with the Mets, after the acquisition in the offseason, after getting the 10-year contract extension past this season, are you surprised that Frankie has struggled offensively the way he has?
I am. I mean, I know that his numbers had slid the last, 18 months of baseball or whatever, but I've probably watched more Lindor baseball than anybody on the national scene just because I'm an Indians fan. And he was the best player I had ever seen. And I'm 50 years. I'm just talking about as an Indian player. Mm-hmm. Okay. Offensively, defensively, and what he brought in terms of leadership. For the most part, he's still played very well defensively. He's had a few bobbles here and there. But here's the thing you're looking forward to if you're a Mets fan. You're in first place, and if you trade for the real Francisco Lindor in the second half, you could run away with the division now with Acuna being hurt. I truly believe that.
I totally agree. I mean, Chris, totally agree. And the Acuna injury, I think the Mets are going to have a scintillating second half. I really do. Especially now you're getting Carrasco. He's going to have a rehab start. He's going to rejoin the team. Hopefully, there's no setback with that hamstring. And Chris, Maggie and I, we talked about. I think the Mets are going to be a really, really dangerous team in October, where they can get themselves to a World Series.
I agree, because if Carrasco can give them any sort of length in the second half, he's a really, really good pitcher, I'm telling you. And then the top of your rotation is going to be able to match up with anybody, right? I mean, as long as Taijuan Walker continues to be the best free agent signing in the second half of the season, you go DeGrom, Stroman, Walker in a short series, and you throw Carrasco wherever, and you throw a bullpen that's been extremely dependable the first half of the year. And I had the Mets as a top 8 or 10 lineup before the season started. They've won all these games without the offense doing any sort of heavy lifting. So if they can crank it up a little bit, they really could win this division by 7 or 8 games. I believe it.
Yeah, I think that for every Met fan, the one biggest thing, and I know he has been better this year, but the trust isn't all the way there, is with Edwin Diaz. And I know the last outing wasn't a great one. He's actually been very good. It just feels like it with any closer, when the screw-ups come, they're big and they're loud.
Well,
not like Aroldis Chapman. I mean, that's a whole other story. But I think that's the one thing. I was looking at Fangraphs, the percentage to make the playoffs in the NL East. The Mets right now are at 77%, and no one else in the division is over 20.
Yeah, well, Maggie, it's a good point, because everybody complains about their closer.
Totally.
But really, how many teams, we're talking about probably one hand, where you are extremely confident in that dude rolling out in the ninth inning.
Well, don't talk to Yankee fans about Chapman right now.
Yeah.
Well, but you go across the entire league, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Hader in Milwaukee, Kimbrel is back to being Craig Kimbrel on the north side of Chicago, and God knows where he's going to end up. I mean, if he ends up in Houston, look out. They might have just punched their ticket to the World Series. But it's a very small number of teams. Even the Dodgers, Kenley's been there great. He's been a great reliever for 7 years. And the last 2 years, they're like, oh, God, 74 is coming in the game. What do we do?
It's an adventure.
So Mets fans aren't alone in that.
Chris Rose. Hey, Chris, we appreciate the time here on this Tuesday afternoon. Enjoy the All-Star game tonight, all right?
Certainly will, gang. I always appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
you got
Chris.
it. NFL Network, BattleBots, host of the Chris Rose Rotation podcast on our buddy John Boy's Media. And it's a good listen. It really is. You get kind of a feel. We were talking about personalities. He mentioned it, kicking off the interview about getting to learn and get a feel from the 6 different guys that he chats with during the course of the season.
And I wonder if you heard this small nugget on the broadcast last night. Very, very interesting, Moose, that one of the available shortstops might not just be a target for the Yankees, but weirdly the Mets.
We'll get into that. We'll do that next. 877-337-6666. Yes.
What?
Yes. Play a little second base. We're coming to you live from the Town Fair Tire Studios. Powered by Town Fair Tire. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. And I mean nobody.
Man, something about sitting in the studio where the guys are usually eating all the time. Now I'm hungry, so we're going to have to order pizza or something like that. We'll get on that. What's Dove holding up? Some kind of half-eaten bag of potato chips?
Doodle.
Oh, a Dipsy Doodle?
Yeah, those are great. Nice corn chip.
I haven't had one of those in a really long time. I don't think that's going to cut it for me. Like I've got serious deep hunger. Yeah.
You're looking for dinner. But you're a very clean eater. Usually you have your fruit bowl.
I already ate the fruit. That's already
you.
gone. Oh, how kind of Dove to share his Dipsy Doodles with
they're
you.
original, too. It doesn't like a nice corn chip.
Were you expecting like a knockoff? What do you mean the original?
Oh, no, I thought maybe it was flavored.
They were like some imitation, like
no.
like Dapsy
make,
Doodles or something like
barbecue Dipsy Doodles, garden salsa,
like the barbecue. That's correct.
Oh, see, look at that.
Oh, the original.
Yes.
Well, this was interesting last night because it was like kind of a quick nugget that they just sort of mentioned on the broadcast really quickly. But obviously, if you're living in this area, sort of caught your attention. It was when Trevor Story is competing in the home run derby last night. And the reason why it's interesting is because he's not re-signing with the Colorado Rockies, the shortstop. And like he's already made it known, like he's not going back there. So are they going to trade him before the deadline and try to get some kind of return? He'd be a rental for somebody. Or are they going to wait, extend him the qualifying offer? He'll turn it down, da-da-da. Anyway, so Buster Olney from ESPN said, the Yankees, obviously, he could be a target for the Yankees or the Mets.
Yes, he did say that.
And the idea would be that Story would either play maybe third or maybe play second and Jeff McNeil goes to third, but something where they would shore up the infield and that he might be a target. Because when you hear Trevor Story to the Mets, it's like they just shelled out $341 million for a shortstop. Mets hopefully won't be looking for a shortstop for a real long time, but that he could play a different position, even though he hasn't so far on the major league level. What I thought was interesting about it, because I reached out to Buster because I was like, I just want to make sure I heard you right, that the Mets could be in. And what he basically said was, it was kind of a speculation, but his point was this. If you look at the standings right now, there are a lot of teams that are kind of locked right at the midway point, kind of locked into postseason, spots. And if come the trade deadline, those spots appear to be even more locked in. And I'm talking about percentage-wise. Like if you have a 60% chance or say you have a 20% chance to make the playoffs, well, teams are not going to be shoring up their team, and you're not going to get a lot of buyers. It's going to turn into a buyer's market because there's going to be so many sellers out there. Maybe 15, 16 teams could be sellers. Now, with pitchers, there's always going to be a market. Teams always need pitching. They always need relief pitching, all that. But with these position players, whether it's Javi Baez, whether it's Story, these are guys who, maybe Chris Bryant, these are guys where they're going to free agency and teams could get desperate. And a team like the Mets or the Yankees who could be going for it might be able to get a really talented infielder at 60 cents on the dollar. Now, granted, again, it's a rental unless you can figure out a long-term deal with him. But I had to reach out because I was like, man, did I hear this right? And it's a really good point. I don't know if the Mets would necessarily be into it. Maybe. I mean, you take a flyer on someone. Third base is a thing for the Mets.
I think they'd be more interested in Bryant than Trevor Story.
Well, you'd be asking him to play a new position for sure.
Well, you'd be right. I think it's interesting. It was more, what he said in the report last night. Now, he might have clarified it with you, Maggie, when you reached out to him. But, it was more second base than it was third base. So it'd be moving McNeil back over to third base. I would think you would look at just the natural fit and feel of putting Bryant in at third base. Plus, Bryant also gives you the flexibility to play outfield positions where you could move him as well. And, you've got Jonathan VR, who's been a good corner infielder for you. J.D. Davis has not been guaranteed anything upon his return. I think the flexibility factor with Chris Bryant playing positions that he's comfortable with instead of looking at a Story and asking him to, who's a very talented hitter, no one's doubting that, but asking him to do something that, he hasn't really done on the major league level.
My only thing is that, to be honest, Jeff McNeil has played a lot of third, but he never really feels and looks so comfortable at third. He obviously looks way more comfortable at second.
Yeah, I think he's more of a second baseman. I agree with that.
But the other thing was interesting about Javi Baez.
At Jewelers Mutual, we're a little obsessed with jewelry. Obsessed like auctioneers with talking fast.
50, we'll get a 50.
Pop stars with auto-tune. And dentists with asking questions.
So, how did he propose?
After they've put their hands in your mouth.
Great.
Yes, we've made jewelry our obsession for over 100 years. We love it so much we named our kids Ruby, Amber, and Opal.
Venti soy latte for Opal?
At Jewelers Mutual, we insure jewelry and only jewelry, which is why people who are also obsessed with jewelry trust us with theirs.
And I didn't realize this until Buster pointed out, I had forgotten that Lindor and Baez were the shortstop second base tandem in the World Baseball Classic. And so have played together already, and maybe Baez would also be an option. He could play second. You put McNeil at third, same kind of thing. So interesting because I did not – my first thought wasn't that they were going to be shuffling things around necessarily up the middle for the Mets, but interesting.
I still think it's a long – if you're asking me, I still think that's a long shot.
It would have to be a deal
I think it's
like a deal.
I think it's got to be a deal.
Too good to pass up.
Yeah, I think it's. I think the guy that they would rather go get would be Bryant.
But I think honestly, above all of that is going to be pitching for the Yankees. Very, very interesting, right? Because if you think about Trevor Story, is that now going to become, depending on what the Yankees do in the next 13 games? What are they going to do? And is that where they're going to look, Trevor Story? And do you bring him over? And if you bring him over, do you have the intent of signing him long term, moving Glaber to second? And
I would think so.
Well, I don't know. Is he totally dead set on going to free agency? We don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, but there's only a certain amount of teams that can give him the contract he's looking for. So it would be a case of that he has no interest in signing with the Yankees. I would think that if the Yankees are trading for Story, it's not just a rental for the rest of the year. You're going to give up that whatever it costs to get him from Colorado. It would be the intention of signing him long term. And there have been multiple reports that the Yankees like Story as a player. But I think the Yankees have got to show Cashman that this team has got a pulse. They don't do any damage against the Red Sox in Tampa Bay. I don't think Brian Cashman's going to do anything of that kind of significance come July 31st. I don't. I think you might see him pair guys off more so than trying to add to this team, hoping that maybe the right addition or two gets this team on track because the games are clicking by. You start to play. You talk about percentages of making it to the playoffs. Well, the longer they kind of continue to tread water and play, 5-2, followed up by 2-5 or 2-7, then followed up by 6-1.
Yeah, they're a 500 baseball team.
What they are,
basically.
The longer you click along here, the more difficult it becomes to go on the run it's going to take to get into the postseason. The percentage of baseball and the win percentage starts to get out of whack to where they're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah, it just seems. Listen, I know that Brian Cashman said we'd have to sink like a stone in order for us not to be buyers or for him not to go out in the market and try to be competitive. Still believe that, even if they are, even if they get through 4-4 against the Red Sox, I think they're going to go for it. This is they're in the window.
It's just not good enough.
But they're in the window. How do you sell on a team that's in their championship window?
It's not a matter of selling. It's just don't compound the problem. Why compound the problem? You've got to be realistic when you look at this team. That's not going 4-4 after starting the year 0-6 against Boston is not good enough.
I know, but how do you know that's compounding the problem? It could be adding and strengthening the team, and it might not just be for the year. If it's a Trevor Story, you're doing that for years to come.
Well, I could go get him in the offseason as a free agent.
But you don't know, because if another team trades for him and puts $250 million in front of him, then he's going to take it probably.
I can go get Carlos Carrasco, or I can go get myself Javier Baez. They're all not going to be signed.
No,
they're all.
But I think there's guys that teams like. They zero in. It's not just like they're so interchangeable. These dudes. I think that teams evaluate them and favorites emerge.
I get it. I mean, the Yankees have liked a lot of guys, right? And they had an opportunity. I mean, they liked Shohei Ohtani. He wanted no part of being a Yankee. They liked Kyle Schwarber. They had an opportunity to have him this offseason. They said thanks, but no thanks. There have been a lot of guys the Yankees over the years have liked. I just would not compound it. The Yankees are going to do whatever they do. But I think when Cashman tells you that, they have to add they have to, before they add, and he's going to be aggressive, but this team, the more of the answers are going to come from within the organization, well, then you have to start winning games. You can't go 4-4 against the Boston Red Sox and say, well, I'm now going to add to this group. They've shown me enough. No, against the Red Sox, I want to see them go 6-2. I'd like to, and I'll give them 2 losses, but they're 0-6 against Boston this year. So the games start clicking by. You have to do more than that because that's the situation, the precarious spot you put yourself in.
I almost wonder if you really believe that this group is flawed, right? That they're not just having a bad season, but that this group is not a championship group, right? If you feel like there is some kind of flaw and you need to make some major changes, I'm not talking about going in and getting a little cosmetic surgery. I'm talking about facelift stuff, where you have to really move some pieces around here. Does it make it easier for the Yankees to do that if they actually don't make the playoffs? For the people who...
Yeah, they get humbled.
Or just it just gives you, if you don't make the playoffs, it kind of gives you permission to sort of start from scratch, doesn't it? And listen, there's things that are untradeable. Giancarlo Stanton's untradeable. You're not going to want to get rid of Aaron Judge. You're not going to want to, obviously Garrett Cole's not going out somewhere. I'm not saying, everyone changes. I'm just saying bigger changes. Actually, maybe a Judge should be involved in that conversation. I've seen a lot of that lately in terms of trade Aaron Judge. I just think that if you don't make the playoffs, if you're a fan out there, you're listening to me, and you're a Yankee fan, and you think this team is fatally flawed, it's not just a bad season, does not making the playoffs actually give the organization permission to not tear it down, just move these pieces. Big pieces like Aaron Judge.
Well, but what are you going to get back for Aaron Judge?
A lot.
Well, I don't know what you're going to get back from Aaron Judge. I don't know after one really healthy season. I just look at it, it's bigger than that. It's not, the Yankees are telling you they're sound. Hal told the media last week that what they're doing is sound. They believe their player evaluations are sound. You read the Sherman piece last week where they're out of whack making player personnel decisions from an analytical perspective. The Yankees feel like they're not doing anything wrong, that their organization, their processes, even though I hate that term, are great. Even though the results are not there in the regular season anymore. They weren't there last year in the regular season. They're not there this year. But they're still walking around telling you all is well. We're good. That's the problem. Now,
well, maybe that changes if you don't make the postseason.
I have no idea.
Maybe they actually look inward.
But they haven't been humbled after a bad first half. They're 0-6 against Boston. They're telling you the coaches are working their rear ends off. There's not an Aaron Boone problem. This is a player problem. This is a players not playing up to expectations problem. The players are be given every opportunity to be successful, but they're not. So they haven't been humbled yet. They weren't humbled last year after they lost to the Tampa Bay Rays, and they didn't have a great regular season because we all gave the excuse, well, it was just a 60-game regular season. It was crazy. Just be happy that we
Cashman
saw.
said Tampa was the better team.
That we saw Major League Baseball.
He said that after the season.
But they also said we're smarter. We're just as smart, and we're proud of our season, and this is a championship team.
Championship caliber, right?
And they haven't won since 2009. And that's the messaging from basically the face and the voice of the Yankee franchise for a team that hasn't won anything in 12 years.
So you think, obviously, they haven't been humbled, even though
they've shown signs of being humbled.
Well, I know, but they've also they've had multiple seasons in the last 4 years where they've won over 100 games.
Maggie, they're spending money hand over fist. Hal told everybody how much they lost last year during the pandemic.
They want to reset the luxury tax.
Okay, great, fantastic. But they ultimately, the Yankees aren't judged by. I mean, they're not the Milwaukee Brewers. We're talking about a proud franchise that has got 27 championships, that is looking to win a World Series, that hasn't won a World Series since 2009. And, the Yankees want to pat themselves on the back for having 100-win seasons. Well, okay, that's great, but that's also tone deaf to what has been the organizational mantra for years and really what has been the heartbeat of the fan base in this city for years, what has separated the Yankees from everybody else. And the Yankees are kind of looking at it and saying, well, no, we got to do things differently. Instead of just being the Yankees, the Yankees also want to kind of be like everybody else around Major League Baseball. The Yankees are bothered by, and they've got Rays envy like you know what. I mean, they are so jealous of what Tampa does with a third of the payroll.
877-337-6666. It's Moose and Maggie hanging out. In for Craig and Evan today. We're going to get a pizza up here. We've got another couple things that we got to take care of, including why are we not on TV
no
today?
SNY today. No SNY today.
I feel like, Moose, you are like who do I want to pick out here?
What's that?
You're like the Dan Rather of SNY. I'm trying to think of someone who's clocked a lot of airtime. You're
I'm the Dan Rather of SNY?
It was off the top of my head. Who's somebody who's been on TV a lot?
Dan Rather.
You're the Michael Strahan of SNY. I was going to say Walter Cronkite, and I was like, wait, that's way too old.
Cronkite. Dan Rather.
You're the Hugh Downs of
Hugh Downs.
I
thought the threesome comment with Joe Torre was strange to kick off the show.
He's also going to join us on Thursday now. That's been confirmed.
Exactly.
Sorry, Joe.
Maggie's like,
Skip.
I want to start with a line. I go, well, if you're going to throw Joe Torre in a threesome with me, pick another name.
I wasn't sure who to go with, but now I know who I would have gone with. Don Zimmer.
Who's dead, by the way.
May he rest in peace. But I said, what in the past?
Right, exactly.
You're the Who of SNY. Right. Like you're one of the biggest faces there, but somehow we're not on.
We're not on TV. No SNY today. Reached out. They were unaware that you and I were filling in.
Huh.
Person I reached out to is on vacation.
Huh.
I don't know if I buy that.
Said have a great show.
I don't know if I buy that.
Said have a great show. Said thank you.
It'd be a better show if we were on TV.
I know. We're not on. I'm sure that we're in the studios at SNY right now. Hey, Farina.
Hi, guys.
Gus,
hey, Farina.
All those guys. Everybody. Mandel. Hello.
Love me
By the
some
way,
Dave
Mandel, I got to send you a text later.
Well, now you're just like we're now having a production meeting with SNY. We're not even on SNY right now.
No SNY. I know. Well, when Chernoff said we were going to be filling in for Carter and Roberts during the summer, we're going to move you from middays to the afternoon. We were like, great. And you and I, we did not even mention SNY or anything.
We didn't bring it up.
Chernoff
they
at the
offered
time
it.
Chernoff was like, I'm sure they'll You'll be on SNY. I can't guarantee you, but I think they'll have you guys on TV.
Well, I said, of course, because Moose is on every day, and I'm on like a couple times a month.
And then today, nothing. Yesterday, we found out, no, Kaplan will be here. You'll be on Twitch. There'll be no SNY.
Shout out
Olivero stopped in beforehand. Why is that? Chris, not sure. I don't know.
It can't be because they don't like our faces.
I looked over at Maggie. Maggie was like,
I don't know.
I have no idea.
I said, maybe we're ugly. I don't know.
I have no idea.
I ate the conspiracy theories.
Let's hear. Dove,
this
Alonzo level?
If this has anything to do with any kind of political assassinations, please don't say it.
No. Craig Carton is afraid. He's afraid that when you're on, there'll be better ratings. He said to them, don't put them on.
Something tells me I don't think Craig's
It's a good
afraid.
conspiracy theory.
He's going to get Wally pipped on SNY by you and me?
It's a nice conspiracy theory. I don't think Craig would do that.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think he would do that. But no SNY today. But we are on Twitch.
But you'll probably be on SNY later.
I will tonight, yes, of course. 11 o'clock tonight, Geico Sports Night.
It's only Moose after dark.
Yes, I can. I mean, that's it. That's it. I got a flood issue to deal with, though. Beforehand. Yeah, disaster.
Yeah. And that's not just the show taking on water, your house taking on water.
No, my house taking on water with all the rain and everything like that. That has got to be rectified right after the show. I might be heading to Home Depot to be going to get some dehumidifiers and fans.
Moose, turns on, what do you call it, homeschooled, right? Where you guys do the SNY hits from home, and Moose is like sitting there in a rain jacket and just like an umbrella.
No, I know. I called the insurance. They're like, is there anything?
You called the insurance one in a break?
I called the insurance. No, this morning. I was dealing with this all morning.
Oh, okay.
I
thought you just found out about this.
No. I was dealing with this all morning, and then the smell was overwhelming when you walk downstairs. And I called them, and they're like, "Is there anything valuable down there?" I go, "No, not really. Just my children's toys."
Copy of the Declaration of Independence.
Like people make offices in their basement. I go, "No, there's no office." I broadcast down there for 18 months, but there's no. It's all gone. They've taken all the equipment away.
Honestly, thank goodness we're back in the studio.
Yes.
Because that would have been bad.
I would have had to have moved. I would have had to. The smell, I can't tell you how bad it is.
Well, mildew's tough.
Like it is. It hits you like a ton of bricks. It's just an awful smell.
Yikes.
Yeah. All right. Huey, St. Louis we go. Huey!
Hey, Mark, how are you, bud?
Good, man. How are you?
I am doing well, thanks. Hey, good to chat with you guys. So, hey, I love the Yankee talk there, but hey, a couple things on the Mets. So I'm kind of confused as to what they need to do at the deadline right now because, Nimmo's been such a spark coming back, and obviously they miss him at the top of the lineup. But do you prioritize pitching? Do you go, do you look for a third baseman? I mean, they're in a really weird spot with all that right now.
Yeah. I personally, Hugh, if you're asking me, fellow Met fan, I'm going pitching. Just because I can't count on Carrasco. I would love to see him. I hope that he comes back at some point, but I can't count that he's going to be there. I don't fully trust Peterson, and obviously Noah Syndergaard is a no. Lucchese's out. I mean, Jordan Yamamoto is still in. We're talking about guys now. We're getting deep here, into the rotation. So, yeah, you've got your three, but I'd love to have another one just as a little insurance.
So, and they're looking at Hamels also, apparently, correct?
Yes.
Oh, right.
I don't know what Hamels has left, but he's got so much postseason experience, it's worth kicking the tires, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, you know what, Huey, I think it probably is. I think Carrasco is going to be a huge addition to the rotation.
Can you count on it?
I understand he's been through the hamstring, had the PRP. I think if he's healthy, he's good.
I know. I just worry about, it seems like this year, and this could be every year, but maybe I'm noticing it a little bit more now, especially with like some of the older pitchers, like coming back and then immediately having another thing. Like I know it's a little more with relievers. Zach Britton that happened to, Darren O'Day. It's just like you come back and then
already had the setback.
And then and Carrasco had the setback, right? So like how could I, if I'm, Sandy Alderson, like how can I be sure?
No, I don't know if you necessarily can be 100% sure that he will not have any. It's been such a long time, Aggie. I mean, he's not pitched one regular season inning here in the regular season for the Mets. He's already had the setback with the hamstring. He threw the simulated game. He's going to throw a rehab start right around the corner. They're feeling very positive. Like I think I'll put it to this way: if he's healthy, I think Carrasco's going to play a pivotal role in that rotation. I think even though he's in his 30s, he's that good of a starting pitcher.
Well, I hope so. Absolutely. And he has postseason experience too. Mike is in Staten Island. Hey, Mike.
Hey, so, Meg, you made a great point about the 100 wins the last 4 years. But they're not built to win in the playoffs. They're built to win in the regular season when you're playing Baltimore 18 times. You're beating up on the lower half. And they got one lefty in their lineup, and he's 85 years old. You got to build your team around your stadium.
No, I know.
Mike, I agree
get
with
that.
you. I agree with you. But the Yankees have a different mantra, Mike, now. It's you build for the regular season and you hope for the best in the postseason. The Yankee way.
I wonder how much different this would feel to Yankee fans.
And trust the process.
If Luis Severino
Throw that on
was
a T-shirt.
healthy.
Make it a banner. We build for the regular season, hope for the best in the postseason. We trust our process.
Well, I think trust
Yankee
the process
Yankee baseball
has been trademarked several times.
We trust it. Whatever.
Philly's got that. That's their thing.
The 76ers, right. But the point is that is what the Yankees' way is. So, yes, they like winning regular season games. And if they lose in the postseason, it is what it is. It's tough to win.
They said the Rays were the better
George
team last year.
George is going to be rolling over in
are.
his grave listening to this team right now and the excuses. It's crazy. I mean, God bless his soul, Nick Swisher. No, he's not dead. But the point being, he was terrible in the postseason. I mean, Nick Swisher was Nick Swisher defined what the Yankees were during this era. Nick Swisher was an unbelievable bad pitching hitter. He was great in the regular season. He was a terrible postseason performer. Terrible in the postseason. And it was just the Yankees were like, well, you know what? He's good in the regular season. Well, when do you come to a point where you learn what guys can do in the regular season, and there's a difference to having postseason success? And so when
look at this group. Who can you say actually who's had real postseason success on this group?
Yeah.
Who's been the difference maker in the playoffs in this group? Not a pitcher, position player. Hello?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Stanton was hitting home runs left and right last year.
Yeah, Stan, Judge. I mean, Judge is,
DJ LeMahieu actually had the biggest home run. It's just Altuve ends up one-upping him.
Gary
against
Sanchez,
the
remember, the Yankees are as good as the team that they thought when they beat the Indians. Remember when Cashman said that a couple weeks back? We're still the team that beat the Indians last year.
Listen, that was some good pitching. Shane Bieber.
Oh, my God. This is what you're grading yourself out as? Oh, my God.
And also Nick Swisher, by the way. Isn't he part of the organization? We've had him on.
Let's set the over-under. How many votes of confidence? He's gotten 3 so far.
By the end of the year?
By the end of the year.
Counting postseason?
How many more times does Cashman need to come out and give Boone a vote of confidence?
Well, he's averaging once a month.
Right. So how many more? Do you think he gives him another one? Like, listen, I was dead wrong. I thought we were going to have like 18 no-hitters this year, right? The no-hitters have dropped off, right? So I was dead wrong about that.
Hey, you should thank your friend Rob Manfred for
Right, Rob Manfred. Thank you. Getting rid of the spider tack. Right. Offense is back in Major League Baseball. How many more votes of confidence do you think Brian Cashman gives Aaron Boone before the end of the year?
2.
2 more?
I think he gets 2 more votes of
confidence.
confidence.
You think 5 votes of confidence in one baseball season?
Well, because I'm going to look on the bright side here, when the Yankees do the turnaround and Brian Cashman gets to do the happy press conference, he gets a vote of confidence. Although I don't know if they'll go as far as to say they're going to re-sign him. See, that's the thing. If they make the playoffs this year, doesn't Boone come back?
For sure.
Right.
Everyone celebrates. It was a successful year.
We take call after call. Everyone wants him run out of town.
I understand. It's all the players, Maggie.
I think it's the players more than Boone.
I think it's a combination of everything. The Yankees are wacky.
That's one word for it.
They are. They're like the Yankees are now like the wacky billionaire. That like you
it's
look
like walking
around
like with wearing tissue tissue boxes
right,
for shoes.
Instead of appreciating what they are, they're looking around trying to find out what everyone else is doing.
Just going to space.
Kind of lost their mind. The Rays have driven the Yankees batty.
I didn't realize this, but did you see that Richard Branson and Elon Musk, they were like going back and forth, like they were sniping at each other, at least the PR people were sniping at each other about where outer space starts because one guy needed, or not Elon Musk, I'm sorry, Richard Branson and Bezos, about where does space technically start to see which billionaire was going to one-up the other billionaire on who like actually got to space first.
Billionaire problems.
That's your Yankees for you.
Yeah, that's billionaire problems right there. That's amazing. By the way, did you see you mentioned Jeff Bezos. I saw this stat, right? I'm not a big analytics guy, but do you realize how rich you want me to quantify how rich Jeff Bezos is?
Is it because his divorce, like his wife is now like the second richest person in the world?
So in Amazon, right, they have 1.3 million employees, right? Right. So they have 1.3 million employees. I believe this is, right? Mm-hmm. So Bezos can give each one of those employees, or 1.1 million, each one of those employees $163,000.
He should.
Then he would have nothing.
He's good.
Is he?
Yeah. Was Amazon going away?
No, I'm not.
Future
I'm just
earnings.
But think about that. Think about the amount of money that is.
Small business owners know cutting costs without cutting quality is tough. How do you trim expenses without hurting your business? Easy. Get Spectrum Business. Call 888-489-2212. Switch to Spectrum Business and you can get the best internet and phone services for half of what you're paying today. Cutting costs can be easy when you get Spectrum Business. Just call 888-489-2212. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
The ruby slippers from The Wizard of Oz are some of the most iconic objects in Hollywood history. And in the summer of 2005, a pair was stolen from the Judy Garland Museum in the small town of Grand Rapids, Minnesota.
All she said was, "They're gone. They're gone."
Welcome to No Place Like Home, a documentary podcast series that investigates the mysterious heist of the ruby slippers. Please listen and follow No Place Like Home, a presentation of C13 Originals, a Cadence 13 studio, available now on Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts.